not like E3. If there's going to be an E3, because I
Wow.
guess the rumor is that. So last week it was Ubisoft, right? They said it's like, oh yeah,
Hmm.
we're not gonna be there, right? Um, but then now there's rumors that Sega and other publishers are pulling out because like E3 has nothing, like there's nothing concrete, right? So it was first announced, right, that the show was gonna be back, and then a few months ago, they said that, or yeah, a few months ago, it was announced that the console makers were not gonna be there, and then last week Ubisoft was not gonna be there, and then now like other publishers are pulling out. Joe, what's going on, dude? It's like,
Yeah.
what's going on
Yeah.
with
This.
E3, man?
I'm sorry. I'm so distracted by that moth that keeps
Yeah,
flying
I
by
know.
your
It's annoying the
cameras.
hell out of me, dude.
Like we went through like the first half of the show, didn't have it out of
And
nowhere. It just
now it's
I'd
like,
pop
hey
up.
guys, hey, it's
It's
flying around the
the
camera.
mascot of No Load Time.
Yeah, it's a moth.
Oh my god. Well, look, with E3, I feel bad saying it because E3, I always had the dream of like us actually going out and being at this convention, like we talked about from
Yeah,
2016 to
whenever.
whatever. Like
Yeah,
when we were like, oh, how cool would it be if we teamed up and went to E3 and experienced this and whatever. And it may be just that, like a remember, like a past memory,
it's a memory.
because I don't think it's gonna. There's no. How do you survive without any of these big shows? Um,
Yeah,
you become an expo that's just around like showcasing nothing that's new, just kind of like a hangout for the industry, and that's not. It's not what E3 is about. I don't think that's gonna last very long, and I feel
that's
really sad to
yeah.
say that.
And it kind of like they I appreciated that they kind of they tried to pivot the show to more of a of a PAX experience,
Mhm.
right? But I just think it's just too expensive, man. Like it
Yeah.
got to the point where like when Sony and Nintendo bailed out, I was like, this is just too expensive just to keep this show and keep doing this thing. I hit it.
Hopefully that's it.
So it's rough. It's rough, right? And they're to the point where uh, putting this thing together, it's probably just doesn't make sense for the ESA, right? And it's
Yeah.
cool to have, right? But then probably the ESA should give it to like a private
Yeah.
company to handle it and not do it themselves, right? I mean, the ESA is a private company, right? But um, they need to. I just think that it's just too expensive. It's just it takes a lot of effort, a lot of money for these companies to build these booths and do the show. And this space is really expensive. The space over at the LA Convention Center. Um, maybe it could be done somewhere else. Remember when they had an E3 in Atlanta? I think was
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was big early 2000s. I want to say
Yeah.
maybe move it, right?
But
So
that's the thing. Like, I feel like there's something wrong with their relationships with to like the publishers, and because like
the
they should
ESA and
have
the
been able.
publishers, yeah,
Yeah, there's something wrong because they should have been able to say like, why are you guys not coming back? What can we do to get you back? You don't try to continue the show without them.
oh no,
Like
totally, totally.
they're very much a part of E3. Like
Oh
you
yeah,
need to come to a place that you make a deal. I went to San Diego Comic. It's not the same thing, but I went to San Diego Comic Con when Marvel decided to skip a year. I was there.
yeah,
It was very different than the year they came back, and it was great. And they came back then the year after that, and it was great.
yeah,
Like obviously, whatever happened, Comic Con said, "Yo, we need you guys to come back. Like, and we'll make a deal."
yeah,
That's how you got to do these things. I don't know what's holding them back, but they got to figure something out, or else there's no else. There's no other way I can imagine. I'm not saying I understand it all, but so I can imagine it really existing without these relationships.
yeah, yeah. Um, it's tough. It's tough. They're the ESA. They're in a tough place. I think that a lot of trust in the relationships with the publishers have eroded pretty substantial in the last few years. Um, like you know that there was a problem when Sony said, "Oh, we're not going back anymore."
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you could tell that, and this was before Jim Ryan, right? This was like when Sean Layden was still around,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, "Yeah, yeah, we're not going anymore." So
Mm.
like there must have been something like really bad happening at that time.
Yeah.
So with the ESA and then Microsoft, Microsoft they you know how Microsoft they like to hog the spotlight. Like they would have been the only ones there, man. And even
Yeah.
then
And
they
even they
said
backed
nope.
out.
They backed out. So something must
Something's
be
wrong.
happening, yeah, with the ESA. So we'll see as more details come out